Welcome to the 47th CALLERLAB convention in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Today is April 11th, and this is the SQ View or Square View 1 session. My name is Mike Preskitt, and I'll be your moderator. And joining me today is Jack Pladdys.
Thank you. Hey, before we even get started, one thing we want to be clear of at the very beginning is in respect to all the other guys that create music programs for square dancing, such as Vic Theater and all those guys, we're not saying we say this is the best program. This is the one that most of us are using, and that's why they have these sessions here at CALLERLAB. We're not promoting anything or trying to sell anything, and those other programs are very, very good programs as well.
Thank you, Jack.
I've got 1.5.4. Will that work? Or do I need to update? I have 9.15.
Oh, yeah, that'll work. 9.16.5 is the latest that I downloaded this about 2 months ago. It may have been updated since. We'll find out in about 2 minutes when I click on that link.
I haven't upgraded mine in years.
If it's a 9 dot something, you should be upgradable without having to totally reinstall. But I think it explains that on the website what the minimum requirement is for upgrade. So, yep, we'll go there in just a minute. So, before we get started here, I'd like to ask everyone to please turn off or silence all your electronic devices. And today's session is recorded, so if you have any questions, we have 2 microphones up here. We do ask that you ask your question over the microphone and state your name and where you're from. Okay, with that, go ahead and reintroduce myself. My name is Mike Preskitt. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska. I've been calling since 1968. There we go. I'll give myself an extra couple of years. I call for 2 clubs up in Anchorage. One is a mainstream, one's plus, and I call up through plus. And that is enough about me at this point here. Okay.
So I'll introduce myself. I'm Jack Pladdys. I was born in Anchorage, Alaska.
Say what?
Yes.
Really? Okay, well, how about that? Okay. I did not know that. Okay, so first thing we're going to touch on then is how do you get a hold of SQ View? And there's a website which I have plastered.
Time.
Sir.
Careful.
Oh,
We're gonna have to do it all over again.
Nope, you're gonna have to reintroduce yourself, but other than that, no.
we're good?
Does he need to do the?
Oh, and then you see the second one.
So go through the intros again.
Wait, please.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to reintroduce ourselves then. And this is welcome to the 47th CALLERLAB convention in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Today is April 11th, and this is the SQ View 1 session. My name is Mike Preskitt. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska. And with me today is Jack Pladdys, who says he was born in Anchorage, Alaska. Small world. Okay. So we're going to start off with how to download Square View, or SQ View. I think people probably call it Square View. I've got the link right up there on the screen, and I happen to have wireless up, so I'm just going to go straight there. And we'll see if the hotel lets us go there.
Do you have the password, Mike?
Pardon me?
Do you have the password?
I've already hooked up the computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I even got my phone to work on it.
Oh my gosh.
That was amazing. It's just, it's the internet. We'll get there. So anyway, once you get to the website, you have two choices. If you are already using SquareView and you simply want to upgrade or update your version, there's a button that takes you there. And if you are doing this for the first time, then there's one where you can download the entire thing. Okay, so here's the website. This is where it takes you when you put in that link. So we're going to go to downloads. And the current version is 9.16.5. If you want to download the whole version, this is your first time, then you're going to click on this first link here, download SQView 9.16.5 with cue sheets, so on and so forth. And then the help file is a separate download. Okay. If you're doing an update, you already have it, and you're updating from some version of 9, you just click on the second download, and what that does is that downloads a subset of the application, but doesn't overwrite things like your database file, for example, because you don't want to lose all the stuff you already had stored in there. So it just downloads the updated information. Okay. Since I already have it, I'm not actually going to go through the download. Now, it doesn't actually download an application that you install, rather it downloads a zip file that you then have to unzip and put into a folder. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. So, the first thing you probably want to do when you download SQView is to organize your music. There are 3 different windows here that you can display your music files in, which makes it handy if you want to keep your hoedowns in one list, your singing calls in another list, and if you have to be one of those weird callers that also cues, you can have your round dances in a 3rd list, or however you want to organize it's entirely up to you. The easiest way to organize your files is to put the music files in separate folders. So you put your hoedowns in one folder, put your singing calls in another folder, and so forth. And then you can go to whatever folder that is by clicking on this, here we go, this little icon that looks like a folder with a music note next to it. Click on that, it'll bring up a dialog box and allow you to go and search for where your files are. Okay, mine is in SquareView MP3 hoedowns. Okay, so click on the one you want, click OK, and it will display the list. If you do this a few times, it will actually remember which ones you selected before. So for example, here I can go to hoedowns, I can go to the singing calls, I can go to other folders that I created for special events, for example. So here's a list of my singing calls I have. Or I can just simply pull it, grab the drop-down list and go back to my hoedowns. And there they are. Okay? Now, if you do that method of storing your music files in folders, sometimes when you, for example, rip them off a CD or download them from a website, they may come with information at the beginning of the file name that indicates like what track it is or what the label is. Information that you might not want to actually see here in the list, in which case you'll want to clean up the file name when you put it in the folder so that you don't see that unneeded information in that list, which will also affect how the list is sorted. So here we are displaying the music file, or displaying the music list. And to play the music, here's a list of controls up at the top. Okay, I'm going to pick this one here. At this point, probably helpful too. Well, I didn't hook up the cable for the sound here. I'm going to go ahead and just play it here. To play the music, first thing I did was double click it, and it brought it up into this top box right here. That's the current selection that's going to play. Alternatively, I can right click on the file and it'll load it into the cue box. And then when I'm ready to play it, just double click and it will drop up into the current. Okay. So I'll double click on Boogie Beat here, and then to start the play, we're going to hit this right triangle here. And it makes a lot of noise that I'm not hearing here at this point. Okay, well, interesting. I wonder if it's because of I've got this thing plugged
Probably.
in. Yeah, I've got it plugged in the projector. So anyway, you can see the thing going up and down that tells you kind of your music level. You'd be hearing the music at this point. The blue box next to it stops it and rewinds it back to the beginning. So to start over again. The blue arrow to the with the bar here will just reset it back to the beginning and start over again. And down at the bottom you can see a progress bar that's kind of creeping its way across the bottom. If I want to go to the end, I hit the next button. It'll, actually fast forward. And the other one fast backwards is, okay. The double green triangle with the bar on the right actually sends it to the end. Or maybe not. Okay. Now you're playing along, and let's say you want your music to actually fade out rather than stop abruptly. You can use this declining scale here with the double yellow bars, that means to pause, and it actually fades the music out over a period of about 3 or 4 seconds. And it stops. But it leaves the marker where it was. It doesn't reset it back to the beginning. Then if you want to start up again, you can hit that same button and it'll ramp the music back up to the normal volume. And if you want to stop and reset it, you have to hit the blue box. Okay. I don't use these 3 controls in the middle very much. Let's see. You can also build playlists of, say you want to do a special night, like a Halloween night where you're going to play Halloween music, okay, for your singing calls. You can build a playlist by hitting that first button on the left above the column that you want to select from, okay. I'm going to give it a file name, I'm going to call it Halloween. Okay. And I'm going to add stuff to it. Hang on a second, I need 2 hands for this. Oh, no, you sound like you're about to say something. Never mind.
So what he's going to do, he's going to create the playlist. He's going to go to another list and start dragging music into that particular box. There's a couple ways to do this playlist thing. And I'm going to show the second way.
Okay. Playlist manager.
That's where
That's what I missed. Yeah. Okay, all right. And I want.
So the box on the right is where he's going to create the playlist. The box on the left is where he's going to get the music that he's going to put in it. So right now he's gone and loaded into first of all he hit the icon that says directory, and then it brought up the box that he could pick the directory, and now he's going through and picking the songs that he wants in this particular playlist.
Okay, so I've added a group of singing calls I want to use for this particular dance and put it in my playlist, and I'm going to then save my playlist, give it a name, and save it.
Does it matter where you saved it?
It doesn't matter, but I'm going to probably show you what I do when I take over, and I actually have folders and whatnot for playlists and all these other different things, and I will show that.
Okay. Once you're done creating your playlist, then you hit this X up in the upper right-hand corner of the playlist manager, and then when you want to see the playlist, we're going to select the playlist. I want HALLO, and I'll open it. There's my list of singing calls, right there in the list. It's really handy if you're wanting to do like say a special dance, but you don't want to necessarily create separate folders or new folders for the stuff you want to use. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about some music options. Right now I've got mine set up to show the clock display up here. You can change that if you like. Go to options and then music. And then there is a clock. Here we go. The clock, you can select an analog clock or a 12-hour digital clock, 24-hour digital clock, and then you click OK, and that's what you see. Like, that's almost readable. That's why I like the analog clock better. I can actually read it. So we'll just go ahead and go back to the analog clock. Okay. You can also use the music options to change your break timer. A break timer is a little tone that sounds when you set your break. For example, you're finished your singing call and you're going to take 5 minutes before you start again. This is assuming you don't have someone doing rounds for you. You're just going to take 5 minutes, whatever. To start the timer, you would click this teacup button on the right-hand side, and this big clock comes up and starts counting down. At the end, it will play a tone. Okay, rather than wait 5 minutes, I'm going to go find the tone and show you what the default tone is, which is called ta-da.
Which they're not gonna be able to hear.
Yeah, that's true. It's not going to be able to. No, okay, it kind of ruins it because, yeah. For some reason, I'm not putting sound, probably because the projector is plugged in. But it just sounds just like that. Ta-da! If you want to, since that's kind of short and not very loud, you can create your own sound clip to play back that might be a little bit more attention-getting and sound, definitely sounds like you're ready to end the break and get back to the calling. I picked the first few bars of The Lone Ranger. Works very nicely for me. Gets everybody's attention. You can hear it in the next room, no problems. Okay. You can easily change the time of your, where'd it go? Change the time of your break timer. Right now this is set to 5 minutes. There's some little up and down scroll buttons here that you can just click on those to change it to something else if you want. Change it down to 3 minutes if you want to, whatever. One thing I've noticed with the break timer is once the music starts to play at the end of your break, it will continue until you stop. Or until it stops, until it's done. Clicking on the little teacup doesn't stop it necessarily. So for that reason, if you do your own little music clip, make sure it's not something that's 45 minutes long. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there listening to that for 45 minutes. The only way out of it is to actually close out of Square View and reopen it back up again to stop that music. Another thing I've noticed sometimes is when you're playing a particular piece of music, okay, here we are playing along. Over in the right, underneath the analog clock, you'll see a timer. 5 seconds, 6 seconds. This is how long your music has been playing. In addition, you see the progress bar going along the top. When it hits a particular limit, that progress bar on the bottom will turn red and start to warn you that, hey, you've been on there a long time. Your dancers might be getting tired, okay? After a longer time, like 12 minutes or so, it starts to flash red. Really gets in your face. And meanwhile, it's also showing how long it played up here. One thing I have noticed with singing calls in particular, because typically when you're doing a hoedown, unless you let it, let your calling end right at the end of the hoedown, you have to stop the hoedown and everything is done. But with singing calls, I've noticed occasionally the song will end, I'm all done, but this little clock over here keeps going. And as long as that is still going, there's not much else you can do. You can't start another piece of music. You can't start your break timer. So the way to get around that is just simply go over here, click the blue box, and that ends the music file. It will no longer play. Then you can move on and do other fun things. Okay. You can also change the information about your break timer by going up here under options and music and scroll down to break timer. Okay. Here we go, break timer. You can also manually change the length of the break at this point here using the up and down scroll arrows if you want to. You can turn it on and off with the plane. Plane means whether or not it's on. If it's true, the break timer sound is on. Turn it to false, and it won't play at the end of the break. And then your playing music is simply a path name to whatever file it is you want to play for your paint. The default is tada.wave, and I've got a little clip there that I created called Lone Ranger.wave. So you can change it if you want to. That's how you change it. You go in here and then you would click on this and click the 3 little dots to the right. It'll bring up a dialog box to go find whatever file you want to play for your playing file. Okay. And that's about all I had planned to present at this particular here. This is SQV1. And I'll let Jack say a few words.
Thank you, Mike. So, first of all, sorry about that. First of all, Mike did a nice job showing how to get to Square View. If you've never been to Square View before and you want to download it, that's what you do. One thing you want to remember, okay, and Thomas Birdhead, I can't always mess his name up, he did a fantastic service to the activity by making this available to us. And one of the nice things about it, and especially for newer callers that, you know, trying to figure out how to do your caller budget, it's free. And that's just a wonderful service by Thomas. But it being free, don't be afraid to practice, to investigate, to go through things, because if you screw it up, you just delete it and download it again, okay? And you have that option. So you can actually go in and start clicking on all kinds of different things. Can I have the...
Yes.
Yes.
The thing.
The thingy, yes, sir. Thank you. So what I would like to talk about...
I'm going to test the theory. Can't play stream.
As soon as I plug this thing in, maybe I'm on the wrong side. So there we go. All right. Yep, there you go. All righty, so how do we get this screen to go a little, that's all right. All right, so what I'm going to talk about is organization, okay? The nice thing about Square View is it gives you a very excellent tool to organize your calling, your program, your music, and several other things. Playlist, teaching lists, things like that. So the way I organize, not everybody has to be like me. I got a lot of OCD. All right, so I have some folders that I've created. I'm going to pull them out here so you can see them. All right, I have some folders that I have created that is actually on my, not that one. That's actually on my desktop, okay? The first folder is just called Square View, okay? All right, and when I bring that folder up, it has a bunch of subfolders in it, okay? And within my subfolders, I have a lyrics tab. For all the new music I get, I put it in the lyrics tab, okay? I have a My Music tab, and that's just a shortcut to My Music, and that's got, and that is not Square Dance music. That's just a whole bunch of other music that I keep on my laptop in case I'm doing a one-night a wedding or something like that. Or occasionally I DJ. All right. I have a pattern, and I got my pattern folders separated from pattern pop labels to pattern Square Dance labels. I do very little pop labels anymore. I used to do a lot of them. They were really cool. Remember the alternative music we talked about? But then I decided I like dancing with the one that brung us. And so I use Square Dance label music pattern most of the time. Probably 99% of the time. So that's all my patterns in there. Now, Mike mentioned something earlier about when Square View displays the music, sometimes you don't want all the stuff in it, and then you should go in and rename your files. I rename every Square Dance file I get to look like this. You have the label, the number, space, a dash, space, and then the name of the song. And I'll show you what that does here in a little bit. Okay? All right. So Mike talked about playlists. I have a folder for my playlist. That's all within SquareView. Here's my singing calls. I created these folders myself. These are my singing calls. I got 1,200 singing calls here. Some people will argue that I shouldn't put my singing calls folder in the SquareView folder, okay? And the reason for that is that if I delete my SquareView folder, then I delete all my singing calls, okay? I agree that's, if you don't back your music up, but I back my music up 3 different places, okay? I have a terabyte drive, I have another computer, and I have this computer, so my music's always backed up in case something like that happens. You should do so as well. Always back your music up. Special sounds, different things, you know, just anything that I do, specialty stuff. I have a folder for specialty stuff, you know, the happy birthday, the friendship ring, the hokey pokey, grand colonel spin, those are specialty things. SquareView, SQView, this is the actual program, okay? And then I've got a few other things, and you're probably wondering why the Z. Well, the Z, that way it puts it all to the bottom. I put the Z in front of it because it, you know, alphabetizes your folders, and I want all these at the bottom because I don't go into those very often. So that's that folder, okay? Another folder I keep is called Choreo, and I'm going to explain to you why I get to the Choreo here in a few minutes when we open up SquareView. All right, so this is a Choreo, and I call and teach from basics all the way through C1. So I actually have a Choreo folder for every level that I call and teach, including including advanced C1. I got DVD Choreo, mainstream plus, and then I have teaching programs, okay? And then I have the SSD list in here too. And this is all in my Choreo folder. Now the teaching programs, the others are self-explanatory, you know what they are, okay? But the teaching one I have in here, I have a spreadsheet that I've created, and this is gonna come into play. So I have a spreadsheet that I create, and I update the spreadsheet on a weekly basis. I call for my A1, I teach for A2, C1, that's one of my clubs, that's another one of my clubs, teaching list, and then my advanced workshop schedule for this year. And I create this, I take the CALLERLAB teaching order list, might do a couple changes, you know, it's only a suggested list. I put it in this spreadsheet, and this is my plan for this year, okay, for this particular club. I'd even go to the extent of color coding. Everything in yellow was stuff that I taught 2 weeks ago and beyond. Whatever's in blue is what's going to be taught, well, in this case, tomorrow night. I have a guest caller going to be teaching my class tomorrow night, and she's going to teach what's in blue right there, April 12th. And then, we are still in April 11th, right? Yeah. Okay. We lose sight of that sometimes when we come to these things. And then actually blue would be what was taught last week. So when I go back to class next week, I'm going to teach what's in green, okay? So blue is what I review, and then everything else is there. So that's how I do that. Then, once I save this, I'm also going to go in and save this as a web page, okay? That's kind of important. I'm going to save it as a web page because it'll turn it into an HTML or an HTML type file. So I hit save. It's going to say, well, it already exists, and I'll say, of course, yes. I want to overwrite it. Okay? Now, we'll get back to that. Okay? Going back up to my Choreo folders, let's just pick C1 for example. Okay? So I have C1 Choreo and C1 Getouts. Okay? So this is what I do. Now, SquareView does have an ability for you to write Choreo and save it in SquareView. Okay? And the guys that's going to be doing the second half will probably talk about that. But I'm a little different. I'm a little OCD, and I like things to be easy for me. Okay, so what I do is I come in and I get all the, get a bunch of different Getouts that I'm going to use, all right? And by the way, I have to change this from zero box to corner box because the name's changed, but I just haven't done it yet, all right? And same thing with zero line to partner line, all right? But what I do is, you'll notice at the top, I've got what my starting formation is, okay? Then I have my get out, but I also color code it because everything in this red background is corner boxes. Everything in the green background is partner lines, and then you continue on down. I have some others in different other backgrounds, at homes. They're going in white and different kind of things. So that's the way I do that. All right. So keep in mind that for a little bit later too. All right. So now I'm ready to open up Square View. Okay. So I've downloaded Square View. I've created my folders. I'm ready to rock and roll. So now I just want to open up Square View. And that's not Square View. I open up my Square View. We got it on here. Okay? And so if you notice, I'm going to take it down just a little bit so you can see it all. Okay, so if you notice, I have the 3 boxes open, okay? For most dances I do, in this first box, I usually keep all my new releases, okay? These are all the new pieces of music that's come out, that I've bought or was given or something like that in the past year, okay? And I'll have those in there because these are the ones I want to practice and do dances and all the new stuff. In the center box, I put the rest of all my singing calls. You'll see that says singing calls right there. And I have a folder, and if you remember, we have a folder that we showed earlier. And then on the last box, I put my patterns. And these are all my different patterns. In fact, this one, and this is in a playlist, this is called my favorite pattern, okay? If I wanted to display all my patterns, okay, or if I wanted to display all my music, as Mike mentioned before, we're gonna actually put in all the music from a folder. So I'm gonna click on this icon right here that looks like a folder. And when you hover over these things, okay, a little box will come up and actually tell you what it's doing. So if you give it some time to hover over it, all right. So I'm going to click on that. All right. I'm going to go down and I'm going to find. I want to put in all my Square Dance label patterns. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to go through my my directory and I'm going to find Square Dance label pattern. Now, if you notice, my directory started at desktop, and then I picked the desktop, and then I had that folder, Square View, and then I went down and I got Square Dance patterns. So when I load that up, that loads up 237 patterns that I have on this particular computer. And then I can just about do everything. I use the label function, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because if you you can set that up in the view and the options here in a little bit, but I like to have the label function in there because a lot of times I do a song at a dance and I'll have a couple callers at the dance and they'll come up and say, hey, what label was that on? That way I can share that instantly with them, okay? Also, it does it alphabetically. You can set it alphabetically, and so I can put all my sheet music in order, and it comes down, everything's all alphabetical if I'm looking for a particular piece of music. All right? So now here I am in the center box, okay? And I put all my singing calls in this center box. So I clicked on the icon, okay? And I'm going to select this folder, singing calls. And that put all the singing calls. I got 1,200 singing calls on there. Can you imagine? Over the years, buying 1,200 singing calls, man. But anyway, I got 1,200 singing calls on there. So if I'm looking for a particular singing call, somebody comes up and maybe request a song. Maybe they requested Neutron Dance, okay? Well, I may have forgot what label that was on, or I may have forgot the thing, or I don't want to sit there and arrow through 1200 singing costs. So this little magnifying glass, the search icon, I'm going to hover over that. It says display the search dialog. I'm going to hit this little guy, and all I'm going to do is type in one word out of that particular song. Maybe I'm going to type in dance, because I know I'm going to type in dance because, well, I'm not doing a very good job of this. I know that I can't spell neutron off the top of my head. Okay, so I'm going to type in dance, and I almost didn't spell that off the top of my head. And I'm going to search, and it's going to bring up every song that I have on this computer that has the word dance in it. Okay, and that way, now I'm going to draw up 12 songs. I can search through 12 songs and find my neutron dance. Okay, so that's how that's going to happen. When I'm done with that search, and I want to refresh it, all I'm going to do is come over here, hit this icon that says reload the playlist folder. I'm going to refresh it, and then all my 1200 come back. And then I believe Mike actually showed you where you can do that drop down, and you can actually pick one of the previous that you've already had in there before if you want to do it that way. But if I just wanted to refresh it with the previous one, the last one that was in there, I would just hit that box. Okay? Now, I've got and here again, this is part of my OCD, I guess. I've got mine set up that when I play a song, it color codes that song. All right? So when I did Happy Trails and I sang that song at the dance, then it color coded it to green. So I don't go in there next week and pick the same song or something like that. It helps me see that. So I've done 4 or 5 songs and they're color coded and they're green. But now I'm ready to wipe that out too. So I'm just going to come up here to this icon, the X, and it's going to delete one or all of the marks. I just hit the X and it returns everything back to original color.
Another quick comment too. You can also sort your lists by clicking on the column header.
Right.
So for example, if you want to actually sort by the name, you can click on that title and it will sort your list either top to bottom or bottom to top.
And here's a good example of naming your music correctly. Like Mike said, I just hit the title and it sorted it alphabetically. So why would Lido be the very first one? And I did this on purpose.
But there's a space.
There's a microphone somewhere.
Yes, microphone. One. Hello.
This isn't worthless. I assume there's a space before Lido, so that
That's
space.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. The reason Lido came up when we went to go alphabetical is because there's a space in my naming, okay? And because there's a space in the naming, and put it very first. So you got to name your files, very, very, very expeditiously.
And it's
So-
very hard to tell from looking at the list that there's an embedded space before
Right.
the word Lido.
So anyway, it'll go numbers and then finish on. All right. So that's what happens there. So now we know how to get our music, how to create our folders, making our folders, being a little organized and whatnot. Now let's look at some really cool things that I like to do because I call 4 or 5 nights a week, work a day job. I like to stay very organized so that I'm giving the best service when I'm teaching my classes or doing workshops or whatever the case may be. So if you look along the top, there's all kinds of folders, okay, all kinds of tabs. All right. Obviously, the first tab is your music tab. The second tab is lyrics, where you can go search for lyrics. I'm not even sure what that list means. Okay. Definitions. Oh, that's what it is. It's definitions. I may have to reboot. For some reason, there we go. All right. So I got a definitions tab, and this is all in Square View. You don't have to load this stuff in. All right. So you got all the definitions in. If I want to go up here to where I have a level, you see that change level? I'm going to change the level. I'm going to change it from A2. I'm going to change it to plus. Boom. It'll change, give me the definition for plus. Okay. All right, if I want to change it to mainstream, it'll do the same thing. It'll give us the definitions for mainstream. Now, you're going to have to keep the files updated if the definitions change and things like that, or you can go in and load in the new version of SquareView and it'll do it for you. But I've added a bunch of other tabs that help me, okay? I've got, well, this is not good. Let's move it to, okay? So I've got 4 years worth of calendars in here. And I create my calendars in a spreadsheet, and then I save them over like I did earlier with the teaching thing, and I save them over, and this will bring up my calendar. I don't consider this my official calendar, okay? This is the calendar that I have on the computer if somebody was to come up and ask me something real quick, okay? I also have a digital calendar, thanks to Ray, and but on my other computer is my true calendar, the one I actually keep. I save those over to this because this doesn't update as quickly as those other calendars do, but it gives me a reference. But the really cool stuff is my Getouts, okay, and my choreography. All right, this is the really cool stuff. So earlier I created, if you remember, I created a folder with Getouts, with choreography. I opened up a PowerPoint. I created that PowerPoint. Then I took it one step further in my choreography. So I took it one step further. I have my PowerPoint with all my Getouts, and then I saved my PowerPoint to a PDF. And I'll explain to you why. SquareView sees the PDFs better than the PowerPoints. It sees both of them. It sees all kinds of software, but it sees the PDFs really, really well. And I'm going to give you an example, okay? So right now I've got this in a PDF, all right? I have saved it in a PDF. Once I get here, I can arrow down and find all kinds of Getouts. Or I can even click on the box and I can use, if you don't have a mouse with you or whatever, I can use the up and down arrow. And that's what I'm doing now, using the up and down arrow to find all these different Getouts. All right? And so what I'll do before a tip starts is I'll go in and figure out 2 or 3 Getouts that I'm going to use, all right? And that will be the focus of my tip. If I have to maybe go over some material that might be a little bit harder and we want them to be successful in the Getout, then I'll do that kind of thing, all right? And I do the same thing with C1. And in C1, I even use cards. I don't site call all my C1. So I got cards in here, and I've written cards, and you can write material. And I do the same thing with the folders and the PowerPoint, and I created this, and this is cards. So now, how do we get that in there? Okay? Well, this is how we put these things in there. All right, we come over to this tab that says File. Hover over it. It shows select a choreography file, okay? So I'm gonna hit that file. And then what it's gonna do, well, because I was here last time, we went straight to that box. But again, it opens up a dialog box, and then you just have to search through your directories until you find the directory you're looking for, which is C1 choreography. I will pick C1 Getouts, for example. I will hit open, and then it'll load the C1 Getouts. Well, that's the wrong tab. I don't want my C1 Getouts in there. I want my C1 cards, the choreography. So I need to go back. I'm going to pick the C1 choreo. I'm picking the PDF version, and I'm going to put it in there. And you'll see that you can scroll through that PDF version very easily. If you don't put them in a PDF, if you just choose to use the PowerPoint version, it comes up like this. So when you open it up, okay, when I open it up, it'll just do like that. So I don't prefer to use it that way. I prefer to use a PDF. So let's go back, bring up a PDF, and there we go. All right, earlier I had created the teaching plan, okay? Pop that open. So when in SquareView, once I saved that teaching plan, I already had it set to load. And by the way, once you set it to load once, the next time you open SquareView, it'll automatically load that particular, whatever you had loaded last. So this is where I picked the HTML version, okay, or the web. I saved it as a web, and I use that one. It doesn't look at spreadsheets really well. It looks at the HTML, just like in the lyrics. It looks at the HTML so much better. And then I have it right there in front of me. I don't have to open up 5 different files. I open up SquareView, and I have everything in front of me. All right, and you know, this is my teaching plan for my Frontier Squares. And then next Wednesday, April 20th, I've already said it. This is what I'm going to focus on at my advanced dance. Okay, so those are what's going to happen there. Let's get back to music. And by the way, if you've got questions, just let us know. You just need to use the mic. All right, so let's get back to music. Now, Mike opened up some control boxes. There's this one is called Choreography. This is the one, all right, this one right here. Let's do that again. Option, Choreography. This is the one where you can go in and name your tabs, okay? All right? So, for example, I've got this, let me close this out. All right, so right now I got the level on A2, Advanced 2, okay? So when I want to create a tab, or I want to do something that has something to do with Advanced 2, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to come here. I can put number of tabs. If I only want 4 tabs, I can put 4. I've got 12, okay? Go down the list. You can see tab, you can name the tab. Here I'm naming tab 1 is list. That's already in SquareView. But we go back down to where tab 3 is. I want to name it. I just click over here. I type in the name, just like anything else. Okay? And all the different tabs. You can change the fonts in the whole 9 yards in this particular box. Okay? So, going back to what I said earlier, if you start messing around with that and you're naming them all different names and you're screwing them up and you're adding 5 tabs and you want to get rid of it, you can either go in and fix it one piece at a time, or you can just reload SquareView. So, all right, other options, okay? Lyrics options, all right? If you go into the lyrics options, I think this is what you had open earlier. This is where you can go in. If you notice, my letters are much bigger than Mike's letters were. That means he's much younger than me. I had to change them shortly. Yeah, I had to make them a little bigger. You can go in and do that, okay? Right here is the font, Times Roman. I picked 16 as the height of the font. All kinds of different things. You can change your spreadsheet style. You can change colors, background colors. If you want to change your background colors, I pretty much use what came. All right? Now, playlist. And this is probably my favorite function. All right? And I'm going to show you, I know Mike went over playlist, but I'm going to show it a little bit more. All right? My favorite function is creating a playlist. So I'll open up my playlist box. Okay? In this directory, okay, in this box, the left side box, as I said before, I'm going to put the directory of the music that I want to use. So I want to get all my singing calls into that box. Okay? And then, as Mike mentioned, I'm probably going to go ahead and alphabetize them alphabetize them by song instead of by label. That way I can go in and find the songs I'm looking for a little bit easier. All right. So if I want to create a playlist, then obviously I'm just going to pick whatever number of songs, as Mike did earlier. I'm just going to put those songs in here, and when I'm ready to save it, I'm just going to hit save. All right. But I want to save mine to the folder that I created called playlist. So I'm going to back out some more. I'm going to go to my desktop. I lost. Oh, there we go. Go to my desktop. I'm going to go to my square view. Open up the square view. I'm going to pick playlist. Open up that, and then I'm going to save this one. We'll just call it do 3. I'm going to save that into my playlist. Okay? Then I'm ready to open that playlist. So once again, I'm going to come over to this first icon. And this first icon is, you can't open it through here. You got to open it through the first icon that says select the playlist. All right? Only because I went to the box earlier, it goes right back to the last box that I had opened up and picked a playlist. Okay? So there's my playlist. I just made that new 3. I'm going to take that one, I'm going to open it up, and then all those songs are there. Okay? All right? I want to show you what I've done with playlists. Okay? So here's my folder with playlists. And the first ones that come up are my current dance pattern. So earlier I told you I had 250 patterns or 237 patterns there. Well, you know, I don't want to sit there. Again, this is a tool for you to be better at your craft. And one of the worst things you can do is go to a dance and the caller's sitting there thumbing through the music in between pattern and singing call. Okay, what singing call am I going to do now? I'm down here until I find one. I spent 5 minutes looking for a singing call when dancing should be dancing, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a current dance pattern and a current dance singer. Okay? Let's just see what my last current dance singing was. Oh, I was doing a baseball theme dance. So my last one that the last one that I did was had a lot of baseball songs in it. Okay. I also created a playlist. Okay, under the themes, I have the baseball theme. There we go. So the next time I show up at a dance, I can just and they say, hey, we're going to have a baseball theme tonight. I'll just bring up the baseball theme dance. Many years ago, when we didn't have computers and we were carrying records, most of us just carried a briefcase with about 30 records in it. There was a few of you guys that were carrying 400 records at a time, but I was not into that game. I carried a briefcase with 30 records, and I do a lot of out-of-town dances. And the worst thing you can do is show up for an out-of-town dance, and you've got 8 songs that you're planning on singing and wowing the crowd with, all these new releases and everything, and you walk in, everybody's got a Hawaiian shirt on, and they say, oh, by the way, this is our luau dance tonight. Well, you didn't carry luau records with you because you wasn't planning on doing that. Well, now, if I walk into the dance, I'll pick this right here. I'll go find me, because I know somewhere along the way I created me a playlist with luau music. Oh my goodness, there it is. So I'm going to pick that, even though I was planning on using that other list that I got, and I brought up all the songs that I can do at a luau dance. I've got 26 songs at a luau dance. Some of these are Jimmy Buffett, you know, different things, but that's what I can do. Or if they say, hey, this, you know, well, you should all already know it's going to be a patriotic dance, but if I want to bring up my patriotics, I got it. Okay, patriotic. Roaring 20s. You ever done the Roaring 20s dance? They're there. I've got playlists for all these. These are all my playlists. And these are all dances, themes that I've done at dances in the past. Got all your Elvis music. How many times have you done Elvis? Or how about 50s dance, 50s and 60s? Those are popular. Well, you need to have a playlist for 50s and 60s so that you're not sitting there, you know, trying to figure out what song to do next. Okay? I'll do the same thing with pattern. Okay? I've got my current dance pattern. So I went in, picked 6 patterns that I'm going to do at the dance that I'm calling that night. You can do this sitting having a cup of coffee in the morning, or you can do it at your desk at work. It looks like you're working. Yeah. or anything. It doesn't take long to get prepared and put on a good show. And using this particular program will definitely set you that way. So playlists are just like one of the best things ever, okay? I don't know how deep we should get in, because the next guys that are coming in are really going to give you a lot of different options. So I'm not sure I'm going to go any deeper. I do want to give you a couple functions that you really need to play with. One is your tempo and your pitch, okay? When you go in, and this is a great feature, especially for the lady callers, because most of the old square dance songs, if you got some of these old records, most of these old records are not created for the ladies' residence. These are created for tenor men, okay? Because they were selling records, and the majority of the callers 25 years ago were men, and so that's where the record companies were making music. It was a disservice to the ladies. Dee Dee was the first one that really came up and started showing how the ladies could use the men's records by doing some of the things she did. Now you have this software, and you can change pitch. You can go up or down. Okay, you can go up. I'm using, no, that's the tempo. So I'm changing the tempo right now. That's not even a good example. Let's come over here and grab. No, that wouldn't be good. Let's grab that one. Okay, so I've got my computer. I've got my square view set to where it will automatically, when you bring the record up, it'll automatically take it to like 127 beats per minute. That's why I've got it set. There's a function in all those tabs that you can do that. If you want to change it, okay, like you can see this one is 127.8, then I'm going to use the E key. Say I want to change it down to 126, 125.9, it's pretty close, okay? And that's where I want to play it. So I can change it to 125.9, I can play it. Mine's doing it.
Yeah.
So I can play it, okay, and turn it off. If I liked it at that, I'm going to come up here to this save. I just set some music settings. I'm going to hit save, and the next time I go to it, it's going to go to 125.9. That's why they have both of them right there. Okay, so that's one of the things you can do with tempo. Pitch is the same way. I can't remember what I just use the arrow. You can change pitch. Okay, I just went up 1. Okay, up 2. All right. Here's the difference. Let's listen. Let's get it back to even. All right, and let's just listen to this piece of music. Now that that's working. Now listen what happens when I change the pitch. So you see it went up 1, and it brought the pitch up 1. All right? Maybe I want to go down 1. So I took it down 1. So you can play with that. One thing you don't want to do, okay, one thing you don't want to do is generally if you go past 2, if you go up 3 or down 3, it starts distorting the music a little bit. See if we can get an example on that. Okay. So let's change it up 4. You can kind of hear it distorting, and it's losing a lot of the music. So you want to try not to go beyond. I never go anything above 2 if I change the pitch. That's a great function on this computer, and I highly suggest that you play around with that, because that way you can find the sweet spot that you're looking for, that you see. And you can also find, okay, this is a very simple piece. Just a moment ago I was just saying that I couldn't remember which key it was to change pitch. But if you come over here to where it says hotkeys, I can bring up the hotkeys, and all the hotkeys that you want to use to do any changes. So if I wanted, here's my music, where's my pitch? There we go. So I could have used the F key and the E key, the E and the F to, or the F to increase the pitch, the D to decrease the pitch. So if I had that in my memory, that would have been okay. All right? There's a couple other really cool functions in this. For example, say you're playing a song, say you're playing a pattern record, okay? And you're ready to end it. And you want it to have a really nice effect. You're ready to end this thing, and you want it to have a really nice effect. Well, I'm going to do a fade out. So there's a Y key. When I hit that Y key, it faded that music out like it was the end of the song, instead of just abruptly stopping. Okay? So it's just part of your shtick, you know. Use this thing to as best as you possibly can. Let's see, was there anything else? Oh, the pattern. That's one more thing you want to do. First of all, I've got, well, I do want to show that too. First of all, we've got these toggles, okay? When you have a pattern column, you basically want to toggle that off, okay? So that it doesn't look for lyrics, okay? That's what it's doing. If it looks for, it could, sometimes it takes forever to find the lyrics. So you toggle that off so it doesn't look for lyrics. And you can set it to reset itself, okay? So you're going to click on this thing that says loop, okay? It automatically sets at 30 and 30 minutes after the start and 30 minutes before, or 30 seconds. If you want to change it, okay? Yeah, if you want to change it, okay, you can do that. Sometimes, especially if you're using that alternative music, you need to change where it's going to reset to, or it might blow you out or put you right in the middle of something. But you can see what happens here. This is going to be, I'm going to come over here to about 30 seconds. Let's see, all right, so when it's 30 seconds away from the end, it's going to reset back to 30 seconds at the beginning. You're almost there. See how it just reset back? Remember the old reset buttons on the 300s? Well, you don't have to hit the reset button. It'll just automatically do that for you. Another really cool thing, and you can set that. Oh, that was the last thing. When I do this, I like to set the feature up so that the lyrics come up right away when I hit start. So when I'm going to do this song, Drive My Car. Well, another thing, I'm getting older. I'm forgetting the words. Taglines. I know the square dance songs, right? What's the old joke? You don't know the songs anymore except unless it says "Left Alabama, Weave the Ring" in it, right? Okay. When I do it, I have it set. My lyrics come up right away, so I can see these lyrics and I can sing those lyrics. I very seldom use this choreography off the cue sheet, but I like seeing the lyric come up. And did you notice on my lyrics? Did you notice they were scrolling? Yeah, we have a feature. We have a feature in these areas, in the music, the lyrics, and the choreography, and maybe the guys next will go into that feature. But we have a feature that your lyrics can scroll, and you can change how fast or how slow that happens. And that way it goes through the song basically as you go through the song. I don't really have anything else.
Just one other comment on the tempo, pitch, speed, and volume, so forth. If you find that you have a particular singing call or even a hoedown, whatever, that you need to adjust the pitch and you need to leave it there, you can save those settings by going, I'm not coming, but up there, just above the loop. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Click on that, it'll save any settings that you change,
Correct.
such as the tempo or pitch, so you'll remember it the next time. It'll also do that for the loop, so you don't have to remember to set the loop every time.
Here's another thing that's pretty cool. And these are just simple little things. Like I said, all you gotta do is explore, okay? See where it says insert a comment for this music? So let's say I clicked on that. And let's say my memory doesn't work very well from one day to the next. I know this is a Beatles song, but maybe I forgot that it's a Beatles song. I'm gonna go up here and I'm just gonna put Beatles. And I'm gonna hit OK, and I'm gonna save it. Next time I drive my car up, I can come up here and look. Oh, it's a Beatles song. Yeah. It's all about the presentation, folks. It's all about the presentation. Use this to present your craft to your group. It's a great tool. One of the best tools we've ever had as far as being able to present what we present and put on a good show.
Any questions? Roy?
Up, microphone.
Test. 1, 2. Okay.
We didn't want to go real deep, and then Carol will be next. We didn't want to go real deep because the group that's coming in right behind us are supposed to be doing like Choreography 2, and you're going to do that, right, Justin?
I'm moderating.
Yeah.
I'm not talking a lot.
Okay. And they're going to go into some more of these things and whatnot. Go ahead.
Yeah, Roy Gott in New Jersey. This may be covered in the next section. Now, of course, I'm looking at this for round dancing. So I don't need all the square dance lyrics. But if I create my own lyrics, which would be my cue sheet, in a PDF file, where would I put that so that when I click on the music, the cue sheet comes up? Would that go into the lyrics folder?
That would go in the lyrics folder, correct.
The lyrics.
So and that's a good point. Good question. So yes, that would go in your lyrics folder. I'm going to go ahead and bring that up. Okay, so these, now Spreadsheet comes with a lyrics folder, but not a round dance lyrics folder, okay? So you would create a folder and you would put your cue sheet in here, all right? You would create a cue sheet first, and there's a function on SquareView that can create cue sheets. Maybe not for round dancing, though. You might have to do your own.
Well, very often for special events, you create different lyrics.
Right.
And you can put the, because like,
Correct.
Betsy wanted to do different lyrics for a particular piece of music. She could do her own PDF file and create a folder.
Exactly.
Okay.
And create a folder, put it in here. A lot of times lyrics come up better. As I said earlier, lyrics come up better in a HTML format, okay?
You said PDF.
Lyrics will come up, well, you can do both. You can do both. But if you want it to come up as lyrics in the lyrics box, you probably should save it as a website or HTML folder. The ones I said earlier were actually the ones that were on these tabs that I saved as a PDF so that I could scroll through. The ones that you want for lyrics, if you want lyrics to come up when you hit the song, those need to be saved into your lyrics folder as an HTML.
If I created them as a PDF and created a different tab for them, is there a way the music could search for it in a different tab?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But that might be a question for the next group. I've never had that question before. I'd have to look it up. I see what you want to do, but I've never seen it done that way. It always searches in the oh, you know what?
You can actually put them in any folder you want to.
You can. You can put them in any folder you want to, but the question he's asking is if he puts his over here in this tab, when he plays his music, will it search this tab to find the lyrics? I think it. Yeah, you could probably do that. I don't know.
Play around.
Gotta play around with it. Deborah Carroll. I think we have 5 minutes, by the way. I'm sorry, we talked too long, don't we?
No, you guys were great. I have the first version of SquareView, the one with the 2 panels.
Yeah, 2.
Okay, and every time that I have tried to make a playlist or something like that, and I take the music and put it in the playlist, my settings all go back to 0. I open up that playlist and all of that music is back at start. It's not saving the fact that I've shifted it. Now, what scares me to death is I would love to have this, But I don't wanna sit and go through 400 singing calls and write down because that's what I would have to do the way that this is working now. If I've got an old computer, I would like to get a new computer, and I would like to update to the newest Square View, but I'm terrified that all of my settings are gonna vanish in a puff of smoke like the evil stepmother waved her wand and it's gone.
You can actually, and if you go on the website, you can actually, see, I'm not sure if you can go back that far though, how old, but it might be an email you might want to send to Thomas. You can actually update Square View without changing your settings, but I don't know that the newers will go back to the old, so that might be a question we should email Thomas.
Yeah, the website says that the current version is upgradable from any version of 9.
From 9,
Or 9.
okay, so yeah, there's the answer.
Mine's probably 1.
One thing you might consider, you may still lose them by reloading, but you could copy off your old Square View folder, download the new one, install it, and then your old settings will still be there in the old version. So if you need to copy,
Yeah, you make 2 folders.
You promised.
Have 2 Square
I
Views.
promise nothing because I never tried that.
That would be a good way to do it. Have 2 Square Views on your computer. You can create a new folder and download the new one in the new, and then you can do your transition as you want.
The information for like your speed and tempo and whatever is actually stored in a file that you can open up and view and manually change. So probably even copy and paste it into another document if you need to retain it off out of the Square View application for reference.
Are you going right back after convention to Alaska, or could you swing by Texas for a quick stop?
Well, 2-3
We'll fly over and I'll wave. Any other questions? Yes.
We lost your phone.
Yeah, I know how to do
The world's best-selling computer is a MacBook Pro. How come after all these years, Square View isn't made native for Macs? Why must I have a separate program to allow me to use Square View?
Is there a version for Mac?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it'd be a question for Thomas then.
There are a lot of Mac users.
Yeah, there's a lot of Mac users, my wife being one of them.
May have to go see Vic Cedar. Vic Cedars might work on a Mac.
Is there another question? Oh.
This has to do with the way, I forget his name, who created Square View, but you know the story where he created it. He was just working on it at work in his free time and stuff like that. And the boss asked him what he was doing, and he was interested and said he could use the full resources of the company if he did it on his own time, but he had to give it away for free. So, and since he's doing that and did it for free and all that, I probably doesn't want to do it all again for a Mac platform.
Right. I didn't know that story. I'm glad to hear that. I think we need an end.
Okay, we are about out of time. So we thank you for your attention and for coming to this afternoon's session.